Hello again, I'm Bob Colt, and we're continuing our conversations in Charlotte Public Schools. Dan Stafford, Athletic Director. How did we do this year? It was a great fall, and you're looking forward to the winter.
Yes, it was an excellent fall for our athletic teams. We had a girls cross-country team that ended up at the state meet as a team, which is a pretty hard thing to do.
That's exciting.
It's very exciting. The girls did a wonderful job. We also had Miles Garn, who was one of our boy male runners. He qualified for state. And for those that don't know, a cross-country meet is 3.1 miles, so it's not a 100-meter dash. They're putting in a lot of effort into it. Our girls also were number 3 for academic all-state, so in all of Division II schools, they were the 3rd highest cumulative GPA. So
that's incredible.
It's a good balance when you've got great athletes and you've also got kids that are putting it in the classroom, so that was very exciting.
And how are you so fortunate? How did that happen here, Dan?
I think it was just great, accidental timing, I guess, on my part. Because Coach Gowell, who actually has just retired from cross country, does an excellent job with our young men and women. So it was good. A lot better than I thought it would be when I walked into it. So,
but there must be, and I don't want to leave this too quickly. There must be an attitude here in Charlotte where people think differently, and not only do you want to be successful in the game, but you think from a bigger picture about how it coordinates with academic accomplishment. And so what's the thought?
Well, and I think that's absolutely true, that the better academically that your school district is, the better chance a lot of times you have to do athletically, because it's that discipline, managing your time, putting things in priority. And across country, you've got to be very disciplined, and it's not a sport that a lot of people choose, but they do a nice job getting things done, and then that carries over into the classroom a lot of times. So
this year, and again for cross country, why were there so many people or so many young athletes who were so good? What happened? Did the stars just align? Was it what occurred? Was it a family?
No,
thing?
it's actually some young runners that are very good. Cross country is one of those sports where you got to kind of have it. It's a coach can help you a little bit to improve and to get better, and some kids, it's sometimes your smaller kids that can't find a slot in football or basketball or baseball, and they find out they're good runners and they put year-round time into it. But it's a great sport that hopefully more kids will get involved with.
Well, and talk a little bit about football, because that's always the draw in a community, Charlotte as well as other people. Talk a little bit about the team and the accomplishments this year.
Football had a very good year. Coach Finney did an excellent job for us. His first full year as varsity head coach, and he did a nice job. They ended up 7-2 in the regular season. They did lose to Eaton Rapids, which we'll be looking to get the Brown Jug back next year, hopefully.
But it was an incredible year for Eaton Rapids.
It was, and it's coming new into this rivalry. I was kind of happy for them that once they pushed us out of the playoffs, that they did win a couple more. But I know a lot of the Charlotte faithful probably weren't as happy for them. But yes, and it's good for us that we will end up being able to play them next year. We worked out a deal where we can play them in week 9. But it's one of those healthy rivalries back and forth, and hopefully that makes it even better when they get you every once in a while, that stimulates that rivalry.
So week 9 in 2014 is going to be a huge game in this community.
Yes, it should be. We do transition to the new conference next year. And we originally had Adrian for week 9, but we worked out with a couple other teams shifting around who opponents were, and we freed up Eaton Rapids. And so probably for a very long period of time we'll be the week 9 opponent for them, and next year it'll be at our place. And
well, talk a little bit about the new conference and what you're looking forward to for fall sports then.
The new conference will be exciting. All of the schools are right around our size, and different schools have different abilities in certain sports, but it'll be very competitive in the fall for football. 5 teams that will be in the conference next year all made the playoffs for football. So it'll be a very competitive fall for us. Some very strong cross-country teams, some very strong soccer teams, and tennis and golf and all that. So I think it's going to be really good. Once we get settled into maybe a new rivalry in the conference, we do bring a couple schools with us that are currently in our CAC conference, Jackson Northwest, Jackson Western, Parma Western, and Jackson Lumen Christi. So those schools will be coming with us, along with Battle Creek Penfield, Marshall, and Harper Creek, and then Coldwater on the south end.
So people obviously notice a little, certainly that you're on the northern geographical tier of that league. Is that sort of a natural evolution, you think, to happen?
Yeah, I think it is. It's what's nice about the new conference is, you know, a lot of people think the travel is going to be a lot more, but really it's not, because, you know, Marshall's about 22 to 25 minutes away. So some of our trips will actually be a little bit closer than what we're used to. And then, you know, the other nice thing is it frees up a lot of non-conference with the Masons, the Eaton Rapids, and schools that we've been familiar with. So being on the north end, we're going to have to work on making sure we get our information out to the Lansing State Journal and that, so that our fans know what's going on with our programs.
So now we're moving into winter 2014 and all of those sports. What do you have on the radar for this year?
Right now, our basketball seasons have just started. The boys started Tuesday night. They won their first game, the boys varsity team against Lakewood. Our girls actually have played 3 games, and they're undefeated. And the girls varsity saw them Tuesday night for the first time. They looked really good. They beat Lakewood by 30 points. Coach Myers is back coaching for the girls program, and Coach Briney's doing the boys again. And we look for some good things. I know the boys, they don't have a lot of height to them, but they're going to be scrappy and tough. And so we look for good things with basketball. Wrestling, Coach Blair, I believe it's his 10th year, 10th or 11th. He's, they just had a match last night against Waverly, and they beat him pretty handily. So he's got some wrestlers I think maybe can get to the state tournament, and you never know individually where they go from there. But
do you think there's a mood change within the school community itself as you go to winter sports? Is it pretty consistent?
I think it's a little different because we don't have quite as many offerings in the winter. I think the kids kind of consolidate a lot around the basketball programs. There was a good amount of kids at the wrestling last night, and it's a little different atmosphere. I mean, you're out in the fresh air in the fall, and you know the leaves are changing. Being inside, it's a little different, but hopefully the students will be excited and continue to support their teams.
And there has been good support by students here in Charlotte, hasn't there?
Yeah, that's one thing coming from Grand Ledge. You know, the kids, when I started talking to them, they said, "Oh, Grand Ledge, you've got great athletics." But one thing I've noticed in Charlotte is a lot of the kids show up for a lot of different events. I mean, they come to wrestling, they go to the basketball, they go to football, they go to soccer. You know, and at Grand Ledge they went to football and they would go to basketball, but sometimes the other sports you didn't see as many kids. So it's nice that the kids kind of support each other, and whether we're good at cross country, we're good at football, we're going to be there as a student body to support each other. So
yeah,
nice.
and then what about the loyal parent role that they play in coming to watch their kids in sports?
It's great down here. We've got a great group of parents that volunteer as boosters that run our concession programs and raise a lot of money for our athletic teams. And then the parents are always calling and, you know, wanting to know what they've already got parents calling about spring schedules and making sure they have work off and making sure they arrange rides with other parents and things. So yeah, it's just like any other district. We just don't quite have quite as many kids, but the parents are on board to help and do whatever they can for their student athletes.
So you mentioned spring, and people already think ahead to seasons, and as you go from fall and then into winter and spring, how do you think all of the sports in a community like Charlotte sort of play on each other, or do they? Do you find them to be very separate and unique?
No, I think the energy and the excitement can transfer from sport to sport, season to season. It's kind of unique here as opposed to where Grand Ledge, where I came from, because, you know, you've got 12, 15 good athletes in a class, and they kind of go throughout the sport. So some of your good football players are on your basketball teams and your wrestling teams, and some of your great cross-country runners are your leaders on your track team. So it's nice that, you know, a lot of the kids, but it's also great when we have a lot of different offerings where some of those kids that do cross-country, they can do track. Our soccer kids, sometimes maybe that's all they do, but it's nice to get them involved in the school aspect of it.
But think a little bit too ahead and foreshadow for this spring. It's always kind of difficult in those early games. You're not going to go out and play baseball in the snow, are you?
Well, it's been fallen before and we've played, but I know the spring probably from the athletic department it's the most hectic because you have cancellations. In the winter it's nice because wrestling typically is on Wednesday night and then they'll have their Saturday meets. In the spring, baseball, softball, track, they can be almost any night of the week. The only day we don't plan is Sunday, but it's hectic. If the weather cooperates, it's usually runs smoothly. But with the cancellations and the rearranging of schedules, and it can be a little hectic at times.
Hey, as athletic director, I don't know that a lot of people really think about the coordination of all of those sports and all of the seasons, but you also have to include upkeep of all of the facilities and maintenance too, don't you? And that's a challenge.
Yes, it can be. We just finished up the fall, so we looked at our volleyball equipment. We looked at different things with the football field and stuff. The nice part is Charlotte's revamped a lot of their facilities. So right now it's just kind of maintaining and doing some daily maintenance types things. But for the most part, Charlotte has great facilities. And it is kind of looking out right now where we've already got pretty much a spring planned. And so when the snow breaks, we'll make sure all the fields and things are set. But yeah, it's that looking forward. We're already starting in the fall, planning next fall with non-conference games and things. So
yeah, and in the fall, is the season too long?
Well, probably if you talk to the soccer coach or the tennis, they'd say no. But kind of the weather will dictate that too. It's, football, if you do make it a ways, it can be very long. Volleyball, our volleyball team did a wonderful job getting to regionals this year. And it can be long. I think our coaches do a great job of keeping things lively and making sure the student athletes get a little downtime so that they're not burned out. Because you really want to kind of peak right at that end of the regular season so that you get that good run through the playoffs.
Well, and with so many athletes who achieve and play so many different sports, what do you do to kind of prevent burnout? You have to have some downtime, don't you?
Yeah, you do. We kind of, the district has a policy where basically Sundays there's no formal practice or no participation of events, which I think is great. It makes the coaches, give them that day off. I think also our coaches do a great job of working with each other. Our basketball coach and football coach, they don't pull from each other, they work with each other, which is key when you don't have, a vast array of athletes and you've got to kind of share at times. So I think that's key is you got to work with each other and you don't want to hurt somebody else's program just to try to benefit yours.
So as you look at a season for all sports as a whole, and you have the power to do anything you want. I know that's not true. But what would you do as athletic director? Would there be some changes you might think about or make to make the whole system of high school or really all sports, all grade levels, better or more accessible or a better asset to a community?
I think right now it's a pretty good system. The biggest problem I have at times is where you have two events on one night, especially in the fall, with soccer and volleyball and things like that. I know kids would like to see both, but if they're both on a Thursday, you've got to pick. And I don't know if there's any real way you can separate those without limiting the amount of contests somebody can have. But I think the state, we're actually ahead of the curve on a lot of the concussion and safety issues for students. But it's just, getting the community involved, which I think is exciting. I think that's towards the end of the fall what was so exciting for the kids, for the community, for even our boosters. When they found out we had a home playoff game, they were on board. They did the community pep rally, we did the cookout, and those are the things I think, that get people excited, kind of like with Michigan State going to the Rose Bowl. Everybody's excited, everybody wants to go. But those are the good things about high school.
Great. Well, is there anything else we should know about the athletic program?
No, I think right now we're looking for a good winter season. The spring season, I know we're going to have some great competition with our different teams. We're looking for, I've already talked to a couple of varsity coaches with some kids camps and things when school gets out. we're trying to get that participation level at the younger grades up, so that when they come through, that we've got more freshmen and more sophomores playing sports. So we're looking for some good things over the summer, and get ready for our new Interstate 8 Athletic Conference next year.
And that is true. You're already here. We are moving into 2014, but you have to think about summer camps and actually creating a pipeline of young people coming into the system, because those who elect to engage in athletics find it to be a real rewarding experience with academics. But there are so many other things that are competing for the time of a young person to make that commitment. It must be a growing challenge.
It is, and I've seen it in some sports a little more than others, but I think it's one of those things that once kids get an experience of it, and it's a positive experience, and that's not always with wins and losses, but just positive as in, I got to do things with my buddies and friends, and it was good. I think once they start experiencing that, we can get more and more of it. We are looking next year to start a swim team. So we're going to get that planning and going. I've got a meeting with some community members to get that news out there and to get things started so that we can get even more participation in the fall and winter from some of our athletes.
And with the Aquatic Center, you certainly have the facility for it.
Yeah, usually it's kind of the other way. You build a team and then you get the great facility, but here we've got a wonderful facility. I know the community would support swim teams for both boys and girls, and we've shared with Eaton Rapids in the past, and so we're going to try our own Charlotte swim team next year.
Well, so what do you have to do to make that happen?
Well, the big thing right now is getting some meets organized. It'll probably be the first year we might be going to, dual meets and going to some what we call double duels, where you compete with two different teams. But getting some of those organized, making sure we get the word out to the kids so that they can, get signed up and get online with getting conditioned and just getting the community excited, that kids know that, if I'm not a runner and I'm not a football player and I'm not a basketball player, that, maybe I can try some swimming and get a positive experience, and who knows where to go from there.
Well, Dan, always great to talk to you. Thank you very much. That's sports in Charlotte. I'm Bob Colt, and we'll continue our conversations in Charlotte Public Schools.